Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In this video, inshallah, I will be explaining multiple applications. The first one, we will be talking about the concept of sensing of sensors in Android. So let's start with this. Uh, let's look at this one simple slide I have for you. Android or mobile phones in general, as we all know, have what we call sensors. Now, what is a sensor? Sensor is it's a hardware device. It's a small hardware piece added to your phone. The idea of it is to allow you to sense something from your context, from the context where the phone actually exists. So if we take maybe a very quick list of such sensors, for instance, the concept of light sensor. Light sensor means that the phone can, using this piece of hardware, can sense the light intensity around the phone. And this can have lots of applications. This information can be fed to your application, and then your application can simply take advantage of it depending on what the application is supposed to do. Notice, for instance, pressure sensor. The pressure sensor, same thing. It can measure pressure. Temperature sensor can also measure temperature from the surroundings of the phone, and so on for all other sensors. The accelerometer sensor is a sensor that's well known. It gives me the phone, I would say, directions in the 3D dimension X, Y, and Z. So that's also a sensor that can give me an idea about the phone movement that's between the hands of the customer or the hands of the user. So I can take advantage of it. I can build games on this. I can somehow infer that the user is moving. I can somehow get an idea about the movement of the user, if he's moving fast, if he's jumping, and so on. Like the proximity sensor, for instance, it's a sensor that can tell if there is an object close to the phone. And also this has its applications, like maybe the most common application that we all maybe see is when we are making a phone call and put the phone close to our ears, and we see that all of a sudden the screen converts and becomes a black screen. It's like kind of deactivate all functionality of the phone except the phone call is going. And this, how did it detect that the phone is now, the user is talking and he's placing the phone near his ear? It's done via this kind of sensor. So like the benefit of switching from full functional phone to just being able to make phone call and black screen has lots of advantages. In this case, like the user is not, for instance, consuming power for having the screen showing in all of its full capacity. Also making sure the buttons are like not active, and so on. So the sensors in phones could add a lot of, I would say, functionality to the system. And this is one of the things that distinguish mobile applications from, I would say, non-mobile applications development. Being able to know what is the status of your surroundings. Now, one thing to be aware of is that not all, I would say, environment, or not all kinds of phones, not all models of phones have all kinds of sensors. Depending on the phone model, like some models are kind of expensive, the hardware has many sensors, and some phones are cheap, only have a few sensors. So depending on the model, you might not see all these sensors active on every kind of model of Android phone. So be aware of that, and that's why the prices of phones change, because every piece of hardware added to the phone will somehow add cost to the final cost of the phone. So now let's look at it from Android perspective. I will be showing you two applications. One application is, the idea of it is simple. It's just to demonstrate how we can know what kind of sensors do we have on our phone. So as you could see here, I have this simple app. Maybe let me demo the app first so you see it. I'm going to be demoing this on a real phone. So this is the app is available for you, App Sensor 1. As you could see, this is just listing that the phone I'm having, it's not that expensive phone, it's a cheap phone. It's having only three sensors: the acceleration sensor or the accelerometer sensor, proximity, and screen orientation sensor. The orientation is the one that's for vertical and horizontal. But like, even as you could see, even cheap phones have sensors, and those are things that your phone can take advantage of. Now, how did I get this list? This is the code we have in here. This example, as you could see, if we look at the layout, I have pretty simple layout. I just have a list view inside it. So I don't have, I mean, much to basically show in here. Actually, it's text view. So we do showing the whole thing inside the text view, doing string concatenation. But the idea is, how can we get this list of sensors? Let's see the steps. First, we are using the sensor and sensor manager classes, and we're importing them. And as we can see here, we are connecting to the sensor service, and this is done typically like any other service. So we use the get system service method, and we specify which service we're connecting to. Now, here I'm creating this list of sensor objects, and I'm using the manager. As you can see here, I'm calling a method get sensor list, and here I'm specifying what is the nature of this list like I'm looking for, and I just put type all. That means I want to get the list, basically a full list. I can be more specific if I put dot. Here, as you will see, you can be, instead of saying type all, you can test if a specific sensor exists by specifying, for instance, I want the accelerometer sensor, such that if this method executes and this sensor is not there, this list will become empty. Now, notice the huge list of sensor types: ambient sensor, gravity, and so on, light, pressure, proximity, and so on. So this list, as I said, is not always available on all kinds of phones, and you have just witnessed in my example that I was able only to see 3 sensors. So if you run this on a different phone, you will see a different list depending on the model. Now, as you can see, the code is done. It's pretty simple. This list will retrieve 3 kinds of sensors. I am just looping through these sensors, and I'm obtaining their name, vendor, and version. So this is a way to obtain what kind of list of sensors basically you have, and demonstrating that. And we just did this in this application. So it did a loop. It looped through these 3 kinds of sensors. It printed the sensor name, the vendor, and the version. So the first 2 sensors are version 1, and the last one is version 3. Now let's take a look at a different example. This other example, I don't want to just list sensors, but actually I want to use a sensor. So let this load, and I'll basically take advantage of time, and let me run the sensor. So let's just do that. I will open another application, and to do that, just give me a second. Here is the, sorry for that, it's just loading. As you know, Android Studio is so heavy. So the app sensor 2 app, notice this here. This is taking advantage of the accelerometer sensor. And as you could see, I have like the phone in my hand, and I can move this. If you notice, like the XYZ movements is changing. This is a 3D movement of the phone. For instance, if I put it completely vertical, you could see the Y is almost 10. If I lay it on the table, you could see the Z is almost 10 and the Y is almost 0. And if I move it to the left, you could see that the orientation first changed, but you could see that the X is almost 10. And if I move it all the way to the right, you could see that X is now minus 10. So the values ranges are minus 10 to 10, depending on what direction you're actually putting the phone. Now, this could be very beneficial to so many apps, as we can imagine. So, for instance, if you're building a game where you want the user to feel the movement inside the game, so he's moving the phone left and right, up and down, and taking advantage of this movement, so that we can give the user, I would say, the feeling and the experience that he's part of the game, then we could take advantage of this sensor. So now, okay, let's see how did we do that. It's just a simple app, just to show the idea of how we can actually connect to sensors. So now this app is not much different from the previous one, except that we do a couple of new things. First, the start is the same. I'm using the sensor manager and I'm using sensor object, but this time I'm calling this like different names for the objects. Now I have 3 edit texts just to display, I would say, the values that I will be extracting. So if you look at the activity here, it's pretty straightforward. I just have the 3 edit texts, the X, Y, and Z. So if we kind of zoom into it, we would see here what we have. It's just X, Y, Z, 3 edit texts, and you could see this here in the app. So now this is not the thing that we want to focus on. Let's just take a look at the app itself. So now, okay, what do we have in the app? The first couple of lines in the onCreate are similar to what we have seen in the previous application. We're connecting to the sensor service, and also we are connecting to the we're now this time we are focused on retrieving information about one kind of sensor, which is, as you could see, the accelerometer sensor. Now notice this, the thing is, if you want to start obtaining data from the sensor, you're supposed to register the sensor, and the registration is just so obvious. We use the sensor manager object, and we register and specify what kind of sensor we're looking to listen to. And like you could see here, we specified accelerometer. So I'm sending the accelerometer object, and here now this registration process assumes that you have overridden the method which is called onSensorChanged. Now notice the sensor class. If I want to obtain sensor data, I'm supposed to implement this method, which is sensor event listener. This is an interface. It's not a class, as it's an interface. I'm supposed to implement this method, and as you know, the interface, I'm supposed to implement whatever method that belongs to this interface. So I'm doing here onSensorChanged method, and that is the method that's going to be executed each time the sensor senses something. So now, if you recall my example here, each time I'm moving, it will be this will be actually getting called. And why is that? Because it is sensing changes happening to the accelerometer sensor. So it's you moving X, Y, or Z. Any one of them changes will actually send you data. So of course, this sensor is extremely sensitive. Like now, as we speak, I'm not moving the phone even, but there are changes, and that's because it's just so sensitive sensor. Okay, of course you have to, you notice that the changes aren't like in major values, like in fractions. So if the change is big, you will see a big change. If it's not much, you will see just minor changes. Now going back to this, so here the onSensorChanged method will get called. Each time the sensor senses something, it will send you to your app a sensor event. Now, the sensor event, I could basically take advantage of it and start collecting whatever data I'm supposed to collect from this. Here, I'm not doing much. I'm just first saying, okay, from this sensor event, I want to know what sensor is that, and I want to verify that this sensor is accelerometer. This statement is, I would say, unnecessary for this app, but it will become necessary if I have so many sensors I'm sensing the data from. Here I'm only sensing from one sensor, so obviously it is going to be type accelerometer. But if I have 2 or 3 or 4, I want to distinguish which sensor is sending me data, I could just put this statement to distinguish which one it is. Now, okay, great. So now what am I supposed to do next? Remember, it's going to give me the XYZ values. So how do I grab this? I just say the sensor event object that I received has the array values, and the first one represents the X position, the second one the Y position, the third one the Z position. I'm just putting these in edit text. Now, sensors in general all have the same principle. So if it was a light sensor, what difference would it be? First, this will be a light sensor. Second, not all sensors send 3 values depending on what you are sensing. Now, like the light sensor will be sending you 1 value at a time. The pressure will be sending you 1 value at a time. So depending on the sensor, so not all sensors have like 3 values. Since here I'm using accelerometer sensor, it's just doing what it's actually just did. It's just sending these three values. I'm taking advantage of them. Of course, this example is just so simple. It, I would say, didn't do anything advanced to take advantage of the XYZ movement, but it's supposed to be like the 3 values here are supposed to be employed in the application to do more than just displaying this in the screen. I'll give you an example about something I did in the past from personal experience. Like for instance, one time we had an app taking pictures, and I want to make sure the picture is taken where it's not like doesn't have any movement. Like user when he did the picture taking process, he was like so stable. There is no blurry or any of that. So what I used to do is I keep checking I enable the sensor and I sense the values, and if the XYZ change during the picture taking time tremendously, like there's a threshold I define, then I kind of use this as an indication, like most likely the picture won't be clear. So I'm gonna call autofocus again to refocus the picture and ask the user to take an image again. This is just an example, of course. You could take advantage of it in so many I would say other examples. So that's it for sensors. Pretty much now here, as you could see, this is I would say the recommended behavior is to register the sensors each time you on the on resume method, and to unregister them on the on pause. Why? Just to make sure we are preserving the phone resources. The sensor is inactive when the activity is not active, and so on. So this is like I would say best practices to do such behavior. So this is it for I would say the sensor example. Okay, now let's move onto a different example. This second example talks about how can we simply send a message and how can we receive an SMS message. So let me close this project and move into our SMS application example. Okay, now in this example, what actually I'm going to be doing is to show you I would say 2 common actions that many Android applications end up doing. The first one is very straightforward. It's just about how can I send a text message from within my Android app. And actually to do that, it's not much work. It's just a couple of lines of code and you will be able to do that. So if I show you the interface of the app, what we have in this example is just, as you could see, a very simple interface. I have 2 edit texts, one that where you put the phone number that you will be sending the message to, and then your message, and you hit the send, and it's supposed to be sending. So now this one actually is not much work. So let's just explain how we send before we go how to explain how to receive. To be able to send, I'm supposed to import the appropriate managers. So I have one manager here important, which is the SMS manager. The SMS manager, as you could see, is defined as an object in here, and this is how we create an instance of the object. So I simply say SMS manager .get default, and I have my object of manager created. Now, how do I send a message? Very simple. Just one method will do that. You grab the text, or say the phone number. So this send text message receives, it has parameters. The first one is for the phone number you are sending message to. You see the third parameter is the message you're sending. This is it. Just you call this method and you will be able to send a text message from within your phone. Assume that your phone has the balance or the plan allows sending messages, and you will be good to go. Now, there are parameters not explained in here, but you're just going to comment on them very quick. For instance, the last 2, what are those parameters that I'm putting values nulls for? Those are additional parameters, not a must to have. You could leave them like you see with null values. But if you want to use them, what are they for? Like one is for the if you want to detect that did your message went through fine. So those will allow you to enable callback functions, methods you define that will be executed either during or after the message delivery. One will tell you if the message has been sent from your end, and one will tell you if the message has been received by the recipient. Now, no, those two will work fine if I would say the phone service providers enable such services. Some phone providers do not enable such services, depending on sometimes the provider, sometimes on the recipient subscription, I would say plan, and so on. So there are parameters that sometimes I would say options or conditions might not make these work fine. But this method will work fine all the time. The only thing is you might not be able to tell if the message got delivered or not. If you want to do that, you have to do additional work by using these callback functions. Now, okay, this is great. How about the other component? Notice the other component that we have here. This one is about how can I receive a message. Notice that this is a very, I would say, brilliant feature for Android operating system. It is not available in the same openness that's available in Android, like in other, I would say, mobile platforms. So now, what is this supposed to do? Let me demonstrate what this is supposed to do. I'm going to simply open the app. Let me go to our emulator, and I will just go and look for this application. Now, this is the application I just showed to you. This is where you do the thing for sending the message. You specify like whatever phone number you want to send to. I'm just going to put an example, and you put your message, and then you hit send. The message will actually be delivered without any issue. Now, how about the other component? Notice the other component, what I'll do. I'm going to use a second phone, different phone, and that different phone, what I'll be doing is this. I will be sending a message to this phone, and watch what will happen. I will send a message to this phone from my second phone, and I'm just going to put in this message, for instance, the word test. So watch what will happen. Let me put test 2, for instance, so it's different from my previous examples. So I'll hit send from my second phone, and watch what will happen. It will take a few seconds. Notice what happened. It opened a different activity that's from my second phone. It opened a second activity. The second activity showing that, oh, I received the message from this phone number, and the body of the message says test 2. Now, how did this application do that? So I was able to open a second activity that shows who sent me the message and what was the message. This is exactly what this is actually doing. So let's look at the code. How did we do such a thing? To do that, first we have to define a broadcast receiver. This broadcast receiver will be executed each time we receive an SMS. Now we are calling this incoming SMS. That's one. Now notice every broadcast receiver, we must define the on-receive message. Now this on-receive message will get executed each time we are actually receiving an SMS message. Notice this. First, I'm defining SMS manager, so this will get called. Now, the intent that we have will actually have the messages. So I'm creating a bundle. Bundle is a set of extras. I'm using this. If bundle is not equal to null, that means most likely there are messages. How do I get these messages? I'm defining a PDUs object, and I'm saying this message I got, please get the PDUs from it. PDUs, protocol data units. This is like it has the SMSs. Now I'm looping through these messages, and then I'm obtaining them one after the other. Now, most likely, this is going to have just one message at a time. Unless it happens like two or more messages arrive almost same time, so it's possible that this will get you like two or more messages. So now how do we do that? It's just I'll use the PDUs. I'm going through the messages one through the other, and I am retrieving this as array of bytes. Then out of array of bytes, I'm creating a message using create from PDU message. So this current message will become an SMS message that I can display the phone number of the sender, and I can display the message of the body. I can get them using the appropriate getters functions and put them inside strings, and then do whatever you like to do with them. Now, what did I do in this case? In this case, I obtain the message, I put them in the strings, the phone number of the sender and the message sent to me, and then I am opening a different activity, which is called a received message activity, which is part of my app. Here it is. And then I'm indicating that I want you to open this activity as a new activity, because it's possible that my application is locked. So if my application is like closed, it will still open this activity. And I'm sending to this activity two extras, the sender number that I just obtained in addition to the message. And then am I starting this activity. Now, once this activity started, it will launch this activity. And as you can see, this activity, I'm getting the intent, obtaining the extras, as we explained before when we talked about the app moving from one activity to another. This is how I can simply obtain from those extras the phone number and the message that was sent to me. Now notice this, the broadcast receiver, I never registered it in any place. Like, where did this broadcast receiver, I would say, get registered at? Notice where this happened. It happened in the manifest file. So that's a good example, shows you that, oh, there is a different place where we could register broadcast receivers. When you register this in the manifest, that means now this broadcast receiver will be running even if the application is closed. So if you notice here, I'm having a first activity, second activity, which is normal, but what's new is this line, or these, I would say, a couple of lines. So I'm having the incoming SMS broadcast receiver that I defined, and I'm saying, please register this as a receiver, and I'm defining a filter here to indicate what is this receiver supposed to be interacting with. It will be interacting with the SMS received messages. So this application shows how we can simply intercept SMS received messages and take advantage of them inside our app and put them inside our app. I hope this example is clear, and for my students this is available on our e-learning as an app that you could take advantage of. Okay, so now in this session there is one more thing I want to basically go over with, which is how we can add some 2D functionality to our application. So I will be opening the Simple Draw application just to show how we can achieve some capabilities that allow drawing inside the app. Let me first demonstrate this app for you on the phone, real phone. So this app, which I called Simple Draw, as you could see, this is it. It just starts showing the hello world. Now I will say more. I'm clicking on the menu. So the first one, the bitmap, it's showing how we can, I would say, load an image and play with it. Like, as you could see, I'm doing all kinds of things to the image. I'm moving this, rotating this, and so on. Now, the second example shows how we can draw text with different fonts types, with different fonts, I would say, statuses, italic, bold, and so on, sizes, underline, strike through, and so on. And the third example shows how we can draw a shape. And finally, shows how we can use the gradients types, how we can do filling with different shading techniques. So this example shows how we can achieve these things inside Android. Again, the idea in our course is like try to give you, I would say, breadth, so you are aware of the different capabilities inside Android. So now let's look at this example, see how we can achieve these things we just went through. First, this application, as you have seen, it's the main activity in it is just have 4 menu options, the one I went through, bitmap, gradient, shape, and so on. Now, for the, let's just start with the first one about bitmap. For the bitmap, here we go. Now, the first thing that you would notice is if you are to do 2D on the application, if you want to do 2D in the application, notice this. The first difference from the traditional approach that we are familiar with is we have this set content view supposed to be usually connecting to a layout, where that layout is defined somewhere in our resources. So usually you have a layout that we connect to inside set content layout. This is the first time that we are connecting a layout to the activity where this layout actually is not a layout. It's a class that I'm defining below, and that class is extending from view. It must extend from view or any one of the types of the views. And where there is no real layout, there is no layout file I'm connecting to here. I'm defining my own layout. I'm defining my own drawing that will simply represent the layout. If you do that, this means now you are intending on defining your own layout. There is no layout that will be used as the XML layout, but it will be a graphics layout. It's a layout that you will define. It's I would say window, the contents that you will draw on using a new class you define. Now, if I go this route, I'm supposed to define a complete class that inherits from view, and I'm supposed to override one important method called onDraw. Now, the onDraw method receives an object of type canvas, and that is the object that will allow you to draw the different things that you like to draw on your layout. So this is an example that shows how I can simply load the, let's just say, will allow me to show how I can load the canvas object, draw images, and as we will see now, as we will go through them, I could do all kinds of things to the images. Now, this example starts with this. It says, okay, canvas.draw color, color.blue. Now, the blue thing, if I go back to my application, will be representing the background. I'm talking about the bitmap object. Notice the background is blue. And this is how actually we were able to draw a blue background just using this line. Now, this second line shows how I can load an image. And this image will be of type bitmap object. So how do we do that? I have an image somewhere in my resources, and I'm just saying bitmap factory.decode resource. I'm providing the resource name. So if I look at my resources, my drawable, here it is. This is the image. If I open this folder just so you see, you will be seeing this same image I just showed in the application. So this image, you could grab any image, put it in your drawable, and use inside your application as exactly as in here. Now, this command won't load this to the screen. It will only load it inside the memory. Now, what this example does, it does this. It creates 5 images objects out of the same object. One is of a medium size, and 4 are of small sizes. And then it does all kinds of, I would say, work on these images. So first one, notice here decode resource means load it as is, but the second one I'm creating another bitmap object and I'm saying create a scaled bitmap. Scaled means I'm gonna resize it, and this will be the new size, the new dimensions. 200 by 300. And notice this JPEG object, this is the one that we loaded. So I'm saying start with this, create a new version with this size. Now this draw bitmap function, it needs the canvas. So each time I'm drawing, I'm supposed to use the canvas object. Canvas.draw color, canvas.draw bitmap, and so on. Now this time I'm not drawing JPEG, I'm drawing the JPEG picture medium size image. And here I'm specifying what will be the left upper corner of this image. Remember, when you are talking like mobile phones, this left upper corner of the screen will be the origin, the 0 point. So when I say 60, 70, it's like you're saying, okay, I want to go shift from X. X is, let me maybe draw it so I can show you this on a drawing. Just give me 1 second. So let me just show you what I'm talking about in here. So if I use this image, so what is this 60/70? You see this from here to here, this is actually the 60. And see that because we're talking about left upper corner, I already loaded some stuff in here. And from here to here, sorry for that. And from here to here, it's actually 70. So like if I want to draw an image at this point, okay, let's just use a different color that shows in a more clear way. Just 1 second. So if I want to draw, for instance, here, I want to put an image, the image will look like something like this. We'll take this place. So this will be your X's, and this will be your Y's. So this left upper corner, to specify it, this is actually the Y. I would just go like this way. So this is the X's, this is Y's. This is the origin here. This is the 0, 0 of the picture. So each time I'm drawing an image, I'm supposed to specify X's, Y's where it's going to be, Y's where it's going to be. That point you end up defining will be the left upper corner of whatever image you're loading. So just wanted to make sure like this is clear. So each time we look at the code, this is like not straight for you. I was saying 60/70, and this is actually 60/75. Okay, so you could yourself test this, just play with this, change the X's, the Y's, you will see how actually it will change. Now, for the bitmap, we are now creating the second one. Instead of medium size, we're making small size. Like notice this one was 200 by 300, this is 50 by 75. Now, we are creating 4 types of matrix, I would say, transformations. So those transformations, the beautiful thing about them, they allow me to do rotation and allow me to do scaling. Now rotation, you can play with the image, rotate it to the left, to the right, clockwise, counterclockwise. You do that by specifying the angle of rotation. So this is 30 minus 30, this is minus 30, and notice this one I'm doing scaling. Now when you do scaling, what is this scaling thing? You have 2 parameters, one for X's, one for Y's. So if I put 2, for instance, means I want this to double X's, I mean the image size, I want it to double by 2 in X's, and by Y, I want it to double into, like if this originally was 50/75, so this will become 100 and 150 because you're playing with the size using the pre-scale method. What does it mean to add a negative? Negative, if you add it in the scaling, means I want to flip the image on x-axis, or I can flip it on y-axis. Those are parameters you could actually play with as you wish. Now, those matrix transformations that I made, one for each image, maybe we could run the app so you just see. For instance, let me make this one 1, and this one, let's just say -1, and I'm gonna compile this app, run this so you see the new version of it. because what you have seen on the screen was a different version. It's an older version. So let me run this so you see what does it mean to say 2. What does it mean to say -1? So I'm going to run this on the phone. And here is the phone. So let's just open the phone. We'll unload the old app and put the new one in a minute. Let's give it a few seconds. And here we go. So now, if I load the bitmap, watch what happened. First, this image is bigger than the other two. Why? Simply because this is the top right. I made the axis scale by 2. So that's why if you look at it axis-wise, it's double this one. Look at the, I'm talking about the internal image. No, the axis, this one is double. Not only that, notice the bottom right. Watch the axis. The bottom right, which is this one, if you notice that the original image has the bird facing to the left, but why is the bird now facing to the right? Notice all of them, the bird is facing to the left. Why is this one facing to the right? Because simply I did this trick. The minus did the trick. It made it face flipped and point to the right. So that just an example, just to show you why actually I did that. And then finally, these 4 images that we just made, like their transformations, I'm using them again. I'm specifying like you have to connect the matrix transformation you did with the image and create a new image. So we're creating the 4 images I mentioned, the top left, bottom left, top right, bottom right, out of the same small images, but each time I'm applying a different matrix transformation object. Those are the transformation objects we defined at the top. Then I am drawing these 4 images. So this is a beautiful example. It shows you how you could load an image and play with it left or right, do all kinds of things you'd like to do to the image. Now, going back and looking at a different, I would say, example. So let's just look at the text, for instance. The text is honestly self-explained, very straightforward, doesn't need much work to understand. I'm talking about the second one. It just shows how you can draw text, play with the font, play with the size. So you could look at it. It actually employs the same idea. First, we have the set content view going to a class. So this is the class. And it's showing me how we can create paint object. The paint object, I use it to control the shapes, and the typeface, I use it to control the font of the text. So as you could see, the canvas, now the background is all of a sudden changed to be green, as we have seen. And now I am drawing different text. Notice this is the first text, default typeface. This is a default typeface. And this is the second text, third text, and so on. What I'm doing here is just showing you how actually to draw a text and play with it, change it, like put bold, normal, italic, as you could see, put line, strike through, flags. So this is an example. You could always, look at it. It's kind of self-explained. The only thing that worth, I would say, mentioning is what do the 30, 40 points represent when we are drawing a text? Text is not a shape. So what does the 30, 40 represent for this one? You need to imagine as if this text is surrounded by a triangle, and the 30, 40 will be representing the top left corner of that triangle, 30, 40. There is no such triangle, but this is how you should look of a text. Like the D, the left upper corner of the D is actually the 30, 40 in this case. So this is how you need to look at this. So this one is not much work. It's self-explained. I don't like to maybe spend time on it. You could look at the code and play with the change as you wish. Changing size and putting flags. How can I it's like put a couple of flags? You could use the paint object to do so. Now let's look at the gradient one. If you recall, going back to the example, I'm going to show you the one that shows how I can do different gradient types. So as you can see here, this is how I can do the linear the radial, and the sweep. We have three kinds of filling options. So this is the code that represents that. Again, same idea. I'm drawing, so I'm making my own new class. Here is the class. Here's the onDraw function. I'm drawing background white. Now, and that's why we have seen white. Now here, I'm creating a paint object, and I'm showing you how we will be drawing, notice three circles, circle 1, circle 2, and then circle 3. But I am doing different filling options for these three different circles. So the first one, I'm using what we call linear gradient. Now, how actually do we do that? Notice I'm using two colors in here, black and red. So I created an object called linear grid and specified in it that I want red and black. And notice I use the shader option, which is the mirror option. That's why you see like it starts like dark, it fades, and it comes back dark. It's like a mirror effect, like there's a mirror in the middle of every like two colors. So those are options you could play with, and here you specify the distance of how many pixels this pattern will repeat. So you could put 2 or more colors, because this is basically no, and this one actually just 2. The sweep you could put more, and as you could see, you are free to specify what kind of colors you want. Now, in the paint object that you created at the top, where is the paint object defined? Let's just look at this. Here it is. The circle paint object, you must specify the set shader option and specify what gradient option you're using. And then when you are drawing a circle, you use the paint object. Now the drawing circle option is as you specify the center of the circle and the radius. So that's how we're actually using the first kind of filling option or shading option. The next one is different. It's a radial. Radial, as you could see, goes circles. So now in this one, what I'm doing is I'm using two different colors, black and green, as you could see. Excuse me. And I'm specifying where is the center of this radial shading and what's the radius. Now, I'm creating a circle that has the same coordinates, so same center, same radius. That's why it looks perfect. It looks like the filling is right on spot on the circle. So what happens is I'm saying, okay, use green and black, make it also a mirror, but this is gradial, not linear. So it's going like in a circular fashion. And that's how it shows, like it started with, as you could see, green, the green in the middle, very light, and goes all the way to black at the outside. And it's making all the colors show because I said maximum radius is 50. So when I'm drawing a circle with the same coordinates, this shading happens to be right on top of that circle. I could change that. I could, for instance, just show you how I can make this center shift a little bit to the left. I could like make it, for instance, let's just say 200. Actually, 200 is too far. Let's just make it 225. And run this again so you see the difference. So let's remember it was in the center. Now what I will be doing is I'm taking this from the center, I'm shifting this a little bit to the left, I'm changing the x-axis. So if I run this app again, let's just wait a few seconds, I will load the new app version. And here we go, it's coming. So if I do more and show the gradients, watch what happened. It's shifted to the left. And look at the beautiful effect. It's like the light source is coming from a different source now. And actually that's one way how we can make a circle look like a ball and ball moving around some light. So you could use it to create, I would say, you kind of mimic, I would say, an object moving in front of a light source. So that's just shows how we could actually play with that. The last one, the sweep gradient, is just showing how I can sweep different kinds of colors. This can be used actually in sometimes creating maybe some apps that will be showing, that will require showing such a shape. This one, the idea again is the same. I'm using different, not radial now, not linear. I'm using sweep, and I'm specifying the options of colors I want to have, and then using this when I draw the object. So it's very straightforward. I don't want to maybe comment on it. The only beautiful thing here to pay attention to is this one. If you notice, I specified its radius using canvas.getWidth. So my point is, if you could use the canvas.getWidth to know what's the width of the screen and what's the height of the screen. And of course, it made the radius width minus 175, so that's so that it doesn't occupy the whole screen. Of course, if I change that, watch what will happen. If I change that, look what will happen. I am saying now the filling of this, let's just see how the filling will be of the width of the screen. So it might not actually show on the circle well, but it's good to play with these parameters so you know the impact of them. This is the best way to make sure you understand these parameters. Okay, now we click on gradients. Notice it didn't show well because it only showed the first color, or actually one of the colors happened to be in the middle. So maybe I would reverse that and make the circle bigger than the filling. So let me make the circle bigger than. Now notice the circle now is going to be, let me make the center of it to be width over 2, and this way this will be in the middle, and let's make this 200. So this way I'm putting this circle right in the middle of the phone now, the phone screen, of course. It's coming, so let's just look at the, see now, look at the beautiful effect now. The radius is bigger, and it's in the middle of the screen, and it's showing the colors I selected in a different way. So that's something good to play with, as I said. Now the last one, I think we already explained it implicitly, is to show how to draw shape, which is what we just did in the previous one. So this shows how you can draw a circle, and you're free to try even other shapes. So for instance, I can try to draw, just put the D, so you see what kind of shapes you could draw. You could draw arc, circle, lines, oval, and so on, rectangle. There are so many things you could draw inside Android application, and it's just here to give you an idea about that. So this is the main things that we explained on Saturday of last session, and I like to put them for you in a video so you see them, you know how actually to prepare for the exam. Thank you very much, guys, and wish you all the best.